This is the Clean Energy Show with Brian Stockton and James Whittingham.
Hello and welcome to episode 64 of the Clean Energy Show. I'm Brian Stockton.
I'm James Whittingham. Welcome to our weekly conversation about how fast the world is changing, thanks to clean energy and transportation. This week, we talk about Australia again. A new stand-up electric scooter goes 60 miles per hour. An update on commercial electric plane flights in Canada. And a listener asks us to talk about vehicle to grid. So we will. We love listeners, Brian.
Excellent.
Thank you. Get a hold of us. cleanenergyshow@gmail.com. Clean Energy Pod on Twitter. I went for an e-bike ride the other day. I know I'm always talking about my e-bike, Brian. I went for an e-bike ride, and I've got a field behind my house. And normally, I would look at a field and grass and say, hey, that's not for riding on.
Yeah.
With an e-bike, it doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
You just zoom right over it on a mountain bike made with an e-bike transmission. And I just, gone, Got to the other side about a block away, and what did I see? A person hit by a car who was riding a bike.
Oh, no.
Yes. A block away from me, minutes before me, where I was going, a person on a bike was hit by a car. Now, I didn't see very much, but there was 2 ambulances, 5 police cars, 1 fire truck, and it was like, whoa, this is my quiet neighborhood. What's going on here? And I checked the news. It wasn't covered on the news, which is a good thing because that means no one was seriously hurt. However, my son, who's in high school, has a friend who lives nearby, and they Snapchatted it or whatever the kids are doing, and said that 2 people were being treated, one from a bike, and one was the driver. Apparently, the driver hit the brakes so hard, they either pooped their pants or they hit their head on something and didn't have a seatbelt on or something. I don't know, but both were treated, so it's good because they're safe. It's just weird, I was riding my bike, don't do that every day, and right where I was going, someone was hit by a car riding a bike. And I will say that I've seen an accident or 2 and some near accidents at an intersection. It's actually close to a school, 2 schools actually. And there's somebody has a fence, one of those big plastic fences that they have nowadays. And they're really close to the curb. So they're creating a blind spot. Well, when will the police do something?
Yeah, so you mean the fence sort of blocks the intersection? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, the view of the intersection. It's supposed to be 5 feet away or something like that. And where we live.
Yeah, so I did go on an e-bike ride. I know you're always on my case for not actually using my e-bike.
Well, good for you. The listeners are all applauding now.
Yeah, so I needed to get my car detailed, so I didn't have a ride back. I had to drop the car off. And I didn't have a ride back, so I used my folding electric bicycle for its intended use, which was I threw it in the trunk, I drove, I dropped off the car, and then I was able to ride the bike home. It worked perfectly for its intended purpose.
How long was the trip? Did you enjoy it? I have questions.
Yeah, it was fairly long. It was 10 or 12 kilometers. Ooh. And because I haven't biked a lot this year, I just put it on maximum pedal assist because I knew I would need as much help as possible to go that
Brian,
far.
you don't have to make excuses. We understand.
But it still had tons of battery left.
Oh, that's good.
The rating is up to 100 kilometers with that bike.
Sweet.
So there was tons of battery left to the point where I realized, I probably didn't need to buy a bike with such a large battery. Some of the folding have smaller batteries, and that would have been adequate because I'm not likely to go more than 10 kilometers one way, 10 kilometers back is the most I would likely do in a day. But I do need, I think, better hand grips. The hand grips that came with the bike are kind of harsh. It's kind of hard plastic. Mm-hmm. So, that always bugs me when you buy a bike and you spend a lot of money on it and then you still need to upgrade components on it. That annoys me.
Well, now that's always the case, though. If you have any knowledge about bikes or want the best experience, you always have to upgrade something. Brian, my whole family uses biking gloves. And, my kids took mountain biking classes and joined the local club. They really enjoyed that when they were younger, killed by the pandemic. But we all do it. And you know what's good with kids is when they fall over, they use their hands to hit the pavement, and they don't scratch their hands up. So that's good.
Are you suggesting I should just get biking gloves rather than replacing the hand grips?
I'm a big fan of biking gloves myself. I don't want to influence the world and make them all dependent on biking gloves. But the thing about biking gloves is they're padded. If you buy the right ones, they'll have some like little foam pads in on the touch points, and it makes it easier no matter what. I've got grips that I like. I've upgraded them, and I have the grips that I like, but I still use biking gloves. And when I don't, I'm like, that hurts.
And the other thing I think I need is a phone holder, because when I needed to go back out there to pick up the car,
You need a GPS.
I needed navigation because it was in a weird place, a new part of town. I don't know it. And so I think I need a little iPhone holder so I can clip on the handlebars so I can get navigation for while I'm riding.
I haven't seen your bike outside of the picture on the website, but I can't remember it. But I bought a little, what do they call it? A crossbar bag. It attaches partially to the highest bar on your bike, where your legs straddle, and that joins your handlebar, and part of it attaches to the handlebar stem, and then the other part wraps around underneath. And I just put my wallet and my phone in there, but it also has a phone pocket where you can use it for keeping it on for GPS and stuff like that. Yeah, it's just, I put this in my 1-year review, is that I find that I'm going so far in the thing, I better have supplies.
Yeah.
James might get hungry. 20 kilometers away from home or whatever, miles.
Yeah, well, that's very clear from what I learned riding my bike, is that I could go a lot further if I wanted to, just use the maximum battery and, still have plenty of battery left.
Did you enjoy the ride? Did you enjoy the feel of it and were you going fast because it was the maximum assist?
Yeah, I was going as fast as I could. It was about 25 kilometers an hour. It was okay. I don't know. I don't quite have the hang of the pedal assist. It seems kind of unpredictable, like when it gives you power. And then sometimes you just stop pedaling and it just keeps giving you power without putting the throttle on. I don't know if it's supposed to do that, but so, I found it slightly awkward because I couldn't quite figure out how the pedal assist worked.
Well, there's little magnets on where your axle of the pedal cranks go through, near the axle. So if you're moving your pedals in either direction, it will activate it, and then it will keep going for anywhere from a half second to a second. I think that's how generally they work, especially on the non $6,000 bikes. So I don't know. It's interesting though. It's always fun.
Yeah, and it was fun to get my car detailed, and we'll have more discussion about that next week.
Oh, it's going to be a big show next week, kids. You have to tune in for this. The Tesla Model 3 is doing some great things this week, and we're going to have that for you next week. I love teasing things for next week, Brian. We don't often have surprises on the show, but next week, big surprise.
Big surprise next week.
I also wanted to talk about something else. Brian, are you sitting down right now?
Yes, I am. You can see me. I'm sitting down.
I can't see your chair.
That's true.
We are on a new platform. The Clean Energy Show is on a new platform. I have not told you about this. Do you want to wager a guess or two as to which platform it is?
No, I don't.
You don't? We're on TikTok.
What?
Yes. We're on TikTok. I named the channel, the username Sneeze Media, so I could do all my podcasts from one TikTok channel, because I'm new to it and I'm not going to create a bunch of TikTok channels. So look for us, Sneeze Media, or you can search the Clean Energy Show and hopefully find it that way as well. I released my kids are trying to teach me what TikTok is.
Sure.
But I need to promote the podcast, and Instagram doesn't do that. By the way, I left Instagram for ethical reasons. So Brian, I have a new segment. It's called Brian Was Wrong. So, Elon Musk was on Saturday Night Live, and you said he wouldn't be in very many sketches. He was in every sketch. I'm surprised he didn't play tambourine in the band. He was every single sketch on the show.
It's true. He was much more involved than I thought he was going to be.
Do you have any thoughts on this delicate, sensitive subject that is controversial?
Yeah, well, I thought it went about as well as it could have gone. I thought it was really smart. In the opening monologue, he revealed that he has Asperger's syndrome, which is something he's never mentioned before.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was just the perfect setup. So, like, if you think that any of his delivery is slightly, awkward, then that explained it. So that seemed like a smart move to kind of set up the audience sympathy right at the beginning like that. And prepare you for, and then, he had a nice joke about, poor intonation, or he doesn't modulate his voice or something like that, and how that's perfect for comedy. That was a good joke. I mean, he didn't deliver it very well because he doesn't,
I got a
vary
big
his
laugh,
voice,
actually.
Properly. But, I was really surprised. And he seemed to really be enjoying it. That was the thing that struck me, is that, it may not have been all that funny, and some bits were better than others. SNL is often kind of awkward and not that funny. But, he seemed to be really enjoying himself, which, that's, I don't know, that's kind of the main thing. Like, if I was ever asked to be on Saturday Night Live, I would be very excited to do it. But then as soon as it got near, I would just be terrified. But, he didn't seem terrified. He seemed to be enjoying himself.
Which is a good position to be in, because if you're terrified on live television doing comedy, it could have been a disaster. So he was in every sketch, but they did limit what he did. A lot of people are saying the best sketch was the Chad on Mars. I actually like the character Chad. This aloof 20-something who doesn't care about anything. And it's Elon was more. It was they did it in like 22 hours continuous shooting and editing, and it was all done.
Yeah,
early Saturday
that was
morning.
a pre-filmed piece, so they could, it's edited more like a movie.
Mm-hmm.
So, that was his best performance, but that was probably why, because it was edited. Like, you could tell almost that they were kind of editing around him. If somebody's a weaker performer, you can kind of edit around it,
right.
And that's kind of what it felt like in that one.
But he was also playing himself as the SpaceX CEO, talking to somebody on a Mars mission.
Yeah.
So I was just reading some electric Tesla fans wishing that there was more electric car talk on the show. He doesn't write it. This is the thing that I mentioned in my video on YouTube, on our YouTube channel. He doesn't write these things. He didn't. I mean, he would have agreed to the Asperger's thing and maybe threw that in. But he's not writing the fact that I'm the first person on SNL to have Asperger's, which he was wrong about, because Dan Aykroyd was diagnosed when he was a child and has hosted. But that's not Elon's fault. I'm just surprised at all the articles written with all the hatred against him for somebody who is trying to. I don't think they realize that he's not after a dollar. He's risked every dollar he's ever had. If Tesla goes bankrupt, which it almost has a number of times, he doesn't walk away with $10 million. He walks away with nothing. He's put everything on the line for his vision, and generally people just think of him as another Bezos, like a money-grubbing guy who's just out there for greed, and that's not. You can say a lot of things with Elon, that's not true.
But it's also weird to try and defend him or stand up for him, because, he's literally the richest or second richest person on earth. He doesn't need defense from any of us. He's already basically won. So, it seems strange to stick up for him in that way, but it's true. People think he's evil. People think that he came from a South African emerald mine fortune, which is completely not true. And that, I don't know, weird stories like that color the whole discussion.
It doesn't help, though. It doesn't help if you're not appreciating what he's already done for the advancement of speeding up the electrification of transportation. It's clear that he has succeeded already in that, and he continues to push hard.
He's probably been responsible for more carbon reduction than any other single person on Earth in history.
Yes, and that's going to continue. And the amount of carbon that he will be responsible for reducing in a faster time frame is just going to exponentially increase this decade and beyond. And would we be having states and countries banning the sale of electric cars if it wasn't for Elon Musk? No.
No, because he proved that electric cars are possible, because you couldn't really make those kind of bans if there were no viable electric cars. But as soon as governments started to see, oh, there's viable electric cars, then they can make those pronouncements.
Yeah, yeah. And I thought I give Saturday Night Live a lot of leeway because I know how hard, I have a sense of how hard what they do is. And you can poop over them all you want when they come up with a dud of a show, and that's too bad. But I thought they've been doing pretty good this year. I've been watching, my son watches, and my son, 17 years old, laughed his ass off. He said there was one bit that he didn't like, and fine. That's pretty good for SNL. But he was laughing.
And the other significant thing was the ratings were apparently very good. The third highest rated show of the season. But even more important than that, they decided to make that the first episode that they broadcast live on YouTube to the entire world, because SNL is typically an American phenomenon because it's live. And if, live for the Eastern time zone, it's not always going to work live in other countries. So it's always been more of an American phenomenon than a worldwide phenomenon, which is, often the case with American culture. But they chose that episode to be the first one to put on YouTube. I'm not sure how many views it had live, but the day before, Elon Musk tweeted out the link for that, and he's got 53 million followers. So the reach of that is just insane. Like to be able to bring SNL to a wider international audience, it made a lot of sense to have him as a guest. Do you know where he sits on the ranking of, most followers on Twitter?
No.
He's only number 21. He's got 53.5 million followers, which is ranked number 21. Do you know who the most followers on Twitter?
Donald J. What's his name?
It is Barack Obama is number 1.
Is he?
And number 2, our Canadian brethren, Justin Bieber.
Oh, really? Really?
Yeah. Obama number 1, Bieber number 2. Then it's Katy Perry, Rihanna, Cristiano Ronaldo, Taylor Swift, Lady Gaga, on and on.
Oh, well, that's disappointing. I mean, what's Justin Bieber got to tweet? Like driving sports cars drunk through the neighborhood and crashing them into his neighbor's house? Like what does he have to give on Twitter? Any insightful thoughts?
He's the highest ranking Canadian. Drake is down there at number 40.
40? Drake,
yeah.
You got to pick up your socks, man. Come on, Drake. And he's Canadian, too. Maybe he just doesn't tweet as much. Maybe it's just all about the sex appeal of Justin Bieber. God, Brian. You know what? I want to talk about a few things this week, and Australia is one of them.
Yeah, well, we had a clip from Australia a couple last week or the week before. Do we have any listeners in Australia? Do you know?
None that I know of, but generally there's like at least one from every country, it seems. But hello, Australia.
So far.
The one person in Australia is jumping up and down right now. Please
get in touch. If you're in Australia, if you listen to the show, let us know. We had a very funny clip last week or the week before, and another clip we're about to play. It's from the Climate Council in Australia, and it's about the health effects of cooking with natural gas in your home. And this really surprised me. This was not something I was aware of. So they made a video talking about natural gas in the home, and we have a clip.
We have 2 children, and they were both very little when we moved into our home. So they've had all of their early childhood here, and we expect to be here for years to come. So creating a healthy home that's good for them and us is so important.
Studies show that cooking with gas is responsible for up to 12% of the childhood asthma burden in Australia, and indeed that a child living with gas cooking in the home faces a comparable risk of asthma to a child living with household cigarette smoke.
We decided to swap out the old appliances with these new electric ones to make the home completely solar electric. Now that was important to further reduce our greenhouse gas emissions, but also it made the home healthier because we took out the need to be burning gas inside the home.
Did not know that, Brian, and you are a gas cooker.
I am, and I'm really upset about that because we renovated our kitchen 5 or 6 years ago. I've talked about this before on the show, and I just kind of went with what, we actually hired a designer to, plan out the kitchen, and he sort of recommended this package of appliances, and one of them was a gas cooktop. And I know that gas cooktops are quite popular with chefs. All the big chefs, they all love gas cooking because the heat is immediate. And I didn't know at the time, I didn't know about induction 5 or 6 years ago. Induction is definitely the way to go because it's electric, but it's the most kind of energy efficient electric. So yeah, I'd never had a gas cooking in any house I've lived in until this one. And I'm such an idiot. It was me that put it in.
Is your oven gas as well?
No, the oven is normal electric. We just have the gas cooktop, and then we have a gas barbecue that's wired into the gas line outside.
So you have portable induction cookware cooktops at the cottage. How much more efficient are they? Do you remember offhand how much more efficient they are?
I don't know. Like one sort of plate uses 1,800 watts, which is a lot of power.
But it cooks faster.
That would be at the peak, which I don't think you need to use very often. It's just, it's way more efficient. It just boils water way more quickly than like a normal electric kettle or something like that. So induction is the way to go. But I do think I would probably have to upgrade the whole electrical panel in my house. I think I'm at the maximum for all the electrical appliances. But, this is something we're going to have to look at in Canada. We're all going to need more electricity. We're all going to need more electrical panels because converting our home heating to electric heat is absolutely inevitable. But it's going to be a way bigger burden on the grid than electric cars, which is something we talk about a lot. People think, the electric cars are going to crash the grid. But what we really have to be prepared for is everybody heating their homes with electric in this ridiculous country where it gets to be minus 40 sometimes.
That's true. And that is starting to happen. I saw a video recently where they said in new homes, if you are installing an air conditioner, central air in a new home, it only takes 10 to 30 minutes more of installation time to install that as a heat pump for heating the home. That's a small difference in labor. No matter how you look at it, it's not a big price increase. So if you are building a new home and you're putting central air in, at least in some climates, it's going to be very easy, at least in the United States. Maybe it's trickier in Canada when we have to make special arrangements. But yeah, it's coming, and maybe we will use electricity as backup heat when it gets very cold here for resistive heating that will use a lot of electricity. But the idea is that electricity will be cheap when we're, spreading solar panels over the planet.
Yeah, I think we'll typically in Canada need a heat pump with a, just sort of a backup resistive heater. But the other thing I learned from this Australian video is that they have like portable gas heaters in Australia. It sounds like this is sort of a common thing, and some of them are not even vented. Oh. And, those are a disaster as well. So yeah, I don't know. We all got to get the gas out of our homes eventually.
All right. Coming up later in the show is a lightning round. That's where we clean up all the headlines and Brian comments on them. Brian, I want to talk about a few things to get your opinion on it, and that is our segment called What Do You Think?
What do you think?
The Ford electric F-150 will be named Lightning, Brian Stockton. What do you think?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. They apparently used that name before for a normal pickup truck. But if they're going to bring back some branding, make it the Lightning. That makes a lot of sense.
My son says it reminds him of Lightning McQueen. He sort of was.
Is that good or bad?
I don't know. It sounds bad. My son gets a lot of mentions on this show.
I used to own an AMC Gremlin.
Mm-hmm. Why?
It was $150. I always thought they were cool, and I put it in a film that I was making.
Yeah.
But in one of the Cars movies, it's like the Gremlin and the AMC Pacer. They're like the bad guys in the movie. And it was mostly because that company disappeared and went out of business so they wouldn't get sued by anyone.
My dad bought a Pacer once, I think for me.
Yeah.
For as an extra car, because I was using his all the time. It lasted about a week. It was a used Pacer, and it literally lasted a week. and it went away. And he never said why. He just said,
it was
broken,
sent to
it's
a
gone
farm
now.
upstate to live out the rest of its
Yes,
life.
that's right. So Ford has teased the F-150 as saying that it is the smartest, most innovative truck yet and will be all electric. And it will be revealed May 19th, which I believe is a podcast day for us. So we'll be all over that at the Ford World Electric headquarters in Dearborn, Michigan. Live streams for millions to watch. And, the thing about the Ford F-150, Brian, is that it is the highest selling passenger vehicle in North America, has been for a long time. Now, I know people in Europe are saying, what's a pickup truck?
Yeah.
And everyone has them here. I don't know why. I guess you're not a man if you don't have one, and they're used for contractors and, in our area, oil rigs and stuff, manly stuff, but not.
But most people use them to get groceries, it seems.
Yes. I've seen people, news footage of people sitting in vaccine lines in their freaking pickup trucks for 6 hours, and I'm thinking, yeah, it's okay. Okay, good for you. And
it also drives me nuts when they leave them running, particularly the diesel trucks. A lot of people just leave them running all the time, even if they don't need them. It drives me crazy.
When I was in line for my vaccine for 6 hours, I was in front of my friend, which is weird, but I was also behind a Prius C, which meant that the engine wasn't running. I was thinking, wow, I really lucked out. If I was behind one of those pickup trucks that, is all over the place, I would be breathing their exhaust. And a pickup truck a little bit close to me was one of the guys who needed a boost. Not an electric car, people. Not an electric car. Brian and I both drive electric vehicles. If you're new to the show, Brian drives a Tesla Model 3 Standard Range Plus, and I drive a old Nissan Leaf as a city car. So, roof-integrated solar company GAF Energy announced today that it will move all of its manufacturing from Asia to a facility in Silicon Valley. And it's the reversal of the solar industry trend of manufacturing solar panels in Asia due to lower labor costs. Brian, I'm asking you, what do you think? Because I don't get it. Why? How?
Well,
Why?
I don't know much about that, but I do know that there's probably a bit of a push with the Biden administration to, obviously, they're spending a lot of stimulus money. They want to bring manufacturing jobs back to America, so maybe that's what it's about.
But how? Why Silicon Valley? That would be the most expensive place you could manufacture something in the United States. The cost of living, the parking probably costs 10 cents a second.
Yeah, well, the main Tesla factory is in California, so
they're building stuff there. But yeah, they also have trouble finding enough labor sometimes. That's when you build a car factory and employ a lot of people. Sometimes you run through the labor pool pretty quickly. Here's another thing I want your opinion on. Tesla might delve deeper into crypto as Elon Musk teases accepting Dogecoin payment. What's up with that?
Good question. I'm not a crypto expert, so, yet. Yeah, I mean, and Dogecoin, it certainly came up a lot on Saturday Night Live, and the price actually crashed as the show went on. So I think it was a case of people buy the rumor, sell the news, something like that. The price of Dogecoin really went up leading up to SNL because Elon was tweeting about it, et cetera, et cetera. So, I mean, I think crypto, it's here to stay. Whether it's going to be Bitcoin and Dogecoin and a dozen others, or it's going to eventually evolve to, one of them is going to be the winner. Who knows? I'm not an expert. That's all I got.
I liked the segment on SNL where he was trying to explain what cryptocurrency was.
Yeah.
And because as a person who just doesn't get what cryptocurrency is, that's what was.
It was another
here it is.
Great week for investors, with the stock market reaching record highs and cryptocurrency continuing to boom. Here to explain cryptocurrency is Weekend Update financial expert Lloyd Ostertag.
And that's Elon coming onto the stage, and then they keep asking him, "What's cryptocurrency?" Yeah, but what's cryptocurrency? And that's how I feel. I feel like I keep getting answers. And at the end, he says basically this.
Man, I keep telling you, it's a cryptocurrency you can trade for conventional money.
Oh, so it's a hustle.
Yeah, it's a hustle.
Why didn't you say that, man? Don't fall to everybody. It's a hustle. To the moon.
Yeah. I just pulled that out of my butt there, Brian. I just Googled it and found it on YouTube. That's how I feel. Yeah, but what is it? I don't understand.
Yeah, it's a bit of a hustle, but I guess the cryptocurrency people would say normal money is a hustle too. It's all fictitious.
Yeah.
It's not, money used to be tied to the gold standard, and there was literally, a reserve of gold, and it was tied to the value of the gold. But they got rid of that. So now, all money is fictional.
Okay. All money is fictional. Brian Stockton. Get
Thank
it
you.
engraved on your hat and your underwear. You could take that to the bank, so to speak. Tesla deliveries drop in China, and the media are making up reasons why. Do you have any thoughts on what's going on in China, expert Brian Stockton?
Yes, well, I listened to the very long and boring explanation of this on the Tesla Daily podcast, which is on YouTube and as a podcast. And he's an excellent investigator, did all of the due diligence investigation to figure out what the heck's going on with this story. And it sounds really like it's just simply misreported, that this is actually not the case, that a bunch of cars were exported to Europe and those weren't counted in the title. So it sort of turned out to be one of those bad news stories that perhaps affected the stock price, which has been down lately quite a bit. But it sounds like it was simply misreporting. It's just simply not true.
Okay, well, we've settled that then. This has been another edition of What Do You Think?
What do you think?
I love new segments all the time. Brian, I have an update on Harbor Air. That is the seaplane commercial transportation company on the west coast of Canada, who have been around for many years, and they electrified one of those old beaver planes. They call it the Eevee now, turned it into an electric plane, and did a test flight back in December 2019. Made news all over the world. We covered it here on the show, and we said we would have updates. Well, it turns out the pandemic sort of put a kibosh on some of their certification that they wanted to go ahead with. But they are now looking to certify its all-electric commercial plane and have it in regular use. So the electrified version is a 6-passenger DHC-2 de Havilland Beaver, and they're partnering with the company that makes engines and battery packs and software for electric planes. I believe they're in Seattle. Magni X. And they will continue the development of the electric eBeaver plane with the help of H55, who are experts in aviation certified modular battery storage, battery management systems, and by joining forces, they will lead to quicker certification because their stuff is kind of already pre-certified in some places. They are taking the next steps with Transport Canada to ensure that these installed components are certified through a program and make their status official for commercial use, which is very exciting, I think. And they're one step closer to transforming its entire fleet, which is quite a few. These are short-haul flights, which makes them perfect for electrification because they're basically going from Vancouver Island to the mainland and other places, ski resorts.
There's a lot of regulations. There's a lot of obviously safety things with aircraft. So yeah, they proved quite a while ago that it's going to work, but the process of actually certifying them and getting all of the, Transport Canada regulations satisfied, that's going to be the harder part.
Harbor Air is calling this aerial fleet electrification the third era of aviation. So despite them carrying limited number of passengers as so-called puddle jumper flights, they are using it as a takeoff point for electrifying all of its 40-plus planes. Exciting, and will continue to keep an eye on that. Brian Stockton, I am getting thirsty. We are at that part of the show. Our sponsor.
It's the part of the show where we talk about our sponsor, which is District Brewing, a brewing company here in our home province of Saskatchewan, and they make terrific beer that you can get delivered. They have an app. They have a Bruiser app. You can order also on their website, and they have beer delivery in Regina and Saskatoon, and they're big fans of the show. They're big fans of clean energy, and they became sponsors of the show. So you can go to bruiser.com. You can get the Bruiser app and order beer and get it delivered cold to your house. This is a fantastic thing. And if you put the word environment in the delivery instructions, apparently you get some kind of a free gift for being a listener of the show.
And why shouldn't you get a free gift for being a listener to our show? I wish they delivered worldwide, where most of our listeners are. But they're only delivering to a small number of the people. But you've used this service, and you've gotten cold beer delivered to your door, which sounds exotic.
It's really fantastic. I mean, it makes me wonder why we didn't just do this all the time before the pandemic. We should have just been getting everything delivered.
Do you skip the dishes or anything like that? I've been almost doing it, but not quite.
Yeah, I use Skip the Dishes, and there's a lot of restaurants now that are starting to get their own apps because they don't like paying the cut to skip the dishes. So there's a couple local restaurants that I do order from that have their own apps, and I try and do that wherever possible.
You know, I know one of your favorite restaurants for fast food is Taco Time.
Yeah.
Has been for forever, and it's free delivery after $20, I think. I've been very tempted to do that because sweet.
Yes, well, how about the new 60-mile-per-hour stand-up electric scooter? This thing is
fast,
ridiculous.
Fast. Okay, I have some questions. For those of you living outside the United States and Britain, that is 100 kilometers an hour almost. Highway speeds, if you will, pretty much. Seems a tinge fast for a scooter. Is this a sit-down scooter or a?
No, this is the stand-up kind.
What is it? You stand up? No.
Yeah, it's called the NAMI Burn E electric scooter
for burning off all your skin.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess I could have one of these, and instead of an electric bike, so I drop off my car somewhere and then zip home at 60 miles an hour on my electric scooter. But the nice thing about it, it doesn't really look that different from a normal electric scooter. They've managed to keep all the components like quite small and lightweight. So it just looks like a normal stand-up scooter, but, it can kill you.
Not only can it kill you, I think you could kill other people with yourself as a projectile going at 100 kilometers an hour. 60 miles an hour is crazy. I don't think I've seen reviewers who test these all the time. And they won't go very fast. They're pretty used to these things, but they're not stupid. They're wearing a motorcycle helmet, so you have to wear a motorcycle helmet. And oh my God, it's just the hill we go down, Lumsden Hill. I take my bike down that hill a couple times when I went out there, and I was burning the rubber off my brakes trying to maintain a reasonable speed, because one little rock. Yeah. And you're a dead man, or at least a man without flesh. And I like my flesh. I don't want to lose all my skin and nose and appendages.
Yeah, and it sells for $4,500 US, which is a lot of money. But I don't know. It seems kind of reasonable for such
maybe
a
they'll have
ridiculous
scooter
machine.
races. I think I would watch that. They'd be so dangerous.
I think that is either already happening or definitely coming. Yes.
So you would dress fully. You would dress fully in leather from head to toe.
I think so, yeah.
How do those things stop with their little wheels at 100 kilometers an hour, I ask? Not on a dime.
Probably with you flying over the handlebars. That's probably how.
With soiled underwear and all. I mean, that's just, they're doing that with, there's the occasionally you'll see an bike like that. And even that, on an e-bike, you're basically a motorcycle. But that's too fast for a bicycle without the proper, it's crazy. I'm very uncomfortable with that.
And the promotional picture they've got for it, it's just, a lady wearing jeans and a t-shirt and no helmet or anything. And she's posing. She's not riding it. She's sort of posing with it.
Sure.
But it seems like the wrong kind of image for a death machine like that.
Death machine. Brian Stockton is calling it a death machine. They won't be using that in their The
Clean Energy Show says death machine.
Well, maybe that would sell a few. You know what's going to happen there? Rich kids, really rich kids, are going to be buying them, and they're going to be dying. Yeah, or they're going to be projected through the picture window of some grandma's house, and end up in her lap without a head or something. There's going to be a video eventually. It's fun, interesting, cool, but not practical. Anyway, Brian, it's time for feedback, my favorite part of the show. I love it when people feed us back, when people talk to us. Again, cleanenergyshow@gmail.com, especially if you're living in Australia. Email us.
Yes.
Clean Energy Pod on Twitter. You can direct messages. We're open for direct messages. You can tweet at us. You can do whatever you like. So, hi, guys. I am a new fan of your show and really like the show. Super rich with clean energy/tech content. Thank you. I am an electrical engineering college student interested in EV charging technologies, particularly V2G, vehicle to grid. EV charging that would allow EVs to behave as DERs for houses, commercial buildings, and maybe communities or entire RTOs. VTG is fairly emergent technology in the charging space with not a whole lot of deployment. And I'd love to hear any insights you could provide. I have not found an episode of yours covering V2G, and I apologize if I have just not been looking carefully. Again, thank you for great clean energy tech content. Best, Nate, who is in Dartmouth College in New Hampshire. Thank you, Nate, for your email. We greatly appreciate your feedback, and I told Nate that we would talk about it on the show. Vehicle to grid. So you have an electric car battery. They're getting bigger. Mine is 24 kilowatt hours. Teslas are over 100 now. Some of them are over 100, 4 times as big. How many kilowatt hours are in a Tesla Powerwall in a home?
I think it's around 13 kilowatt hours. It's not huge.
Not huge. So some people buy a couple of them. Vehicle to grid is not taken off anywhere. Even my old Nissan Leaf years ago in Japan, Nissan was touting vehicle to the grid. They're the first people that I heard talking about it. And they showed a wall unit in the living room or in the hallway or somewhere in your house that sort of interacted with the car and put it into the grid. And people largely are excited about vehicle to grid from consumer perspective, just for a power backup. Because imagine living in Florida and not having power for a week. You could power your home to run air conditioning, which it gets hot after hurricanes, which is kind of cruel. Sun comes out and it gets hot again. You can power your refrigerators and your lights and things.
Yeah, well, we haven't talked about it too much. You're right. It hasn't really taken off. I think we discussed it one time in terms of school buses. Like school buses are kind of a natural one for vehicle to grid because they're actually only used for a short portion of the day. So you can make them more useful by leaving them plugged into the grid. But it makes me think about our earlier discussion about, converting all of our homes to electric heat, which is something we think is going to happen eventually. Natural gas is going to go away. So if you just think of what that world is going to look like, the grid is just going to be so much different a few years in the future. When you think about the power load that's going to be necessary in our ridiculously cold Canadian homes to heat them with electric heat. So, yeah, it totally makes sense in this future where, demand on the grid is going to be double or triple what it is now. You're going to need all hands on deck. You're going to have home batteries. You're going to have grid scale batteries. And then you're going to have cars, and you might as well have the cars plugged into the grid as well.
Yeah, and vehicle to grid is not just about taking power from the car for either as a battery backup or for the grid needing that demand and then paying you for that electricity as it sucks out the demand. But also just to say that our grid is under high demand and we can turn off the charging of your electric car. So that's another aspect of vehicle to grid, something that we don't talk about very often. I would love it, as a consumer, right? My electric car could power my house for the 2 hours that my power goes out, because it could.
No, and mine has gone out twice in the last couple of days, which is, we've been lucky. It hasn't been happening lately, but yeah, it's happened a couple of times. It was out for half an hour during the day. We could have totally run the whole house for a half an hour off the car battery. That would have been a no-brainer.
You could have run your house probably for days if you were efficient about it. If your kids weren't playing video games constantly or whatever high-demand electronic things or doing podcasts. Yeah, I mean, even my little car could power the house if I was, If I just wanted to run the furnace fan just to stay alive, if it was winter, I could do that. And a couple lights, and it could do it for days.
There's a hack you can do. I saw it once, I think, on the Transport Evolved YouTube channel where they took, that was a Nissan Leaf, and then they were able to just kind of plug an inverter into the car and then just, an extension cable and run a couple of things in the house, like the fridge or something like that. So there's a way to kind of hack it where you just basically, plug into the cigarette lighter or something.
I wouldn't, it's not the cigarette lighter because that would, the fuse would blow pretty quickly on a cigarette lighter or the auxiliary power adapters, as they call them now. Nobody uses them.
Yeah, but does the Leaf have a normal outlet in it?
It does, but no, what they did there, Brian, is they used alligator clamps to attach it to the 12-volt battery, left the car in the running position, so then the traction battery, which holds all the power, then powers continuously tops up the 12-volt battery till it's at so it's essentially coming from the traction battery via the 12-volt. So there's only so much you can do with that. But if you buy a really expensive converter, here they'd be like $350. In the States, I think she went out and bought one on sale for $100 and powered her home. And then what she did, which was interesting, when her battery ran out, she drove to the nearest charging station, which was a fantasy where we lived, but now we can, and fast charged her car where they did have power, and then drove back home and plugged it in again, which is really cool. People don't think you could do that. A lot of people will say, well, if the power goes out, electric cars are screwed. But you know what gas stations pump off of? They use electricity to pump gas. They use electricity to pay for that gas.
Electricity.
To do the financial transaction of that gas. If your power's out in your neighborhood, your local gas station's not running either. And it's true you can go to the next neighborhood that does have power and get gas, maybe, if it's probably a huge lineup. But you could also do that with a supercharger or a fast charger as well. So, the vehicle-to-grid communicates with the power grid to sell demand response services by either returning electricity to the grid or by throttling the charging, right? And they can enable EVs to store and discharge electricity generated from renewable sources, such as solar. Like you could put all your solar into your car and then use it at night if you wanted to. Problem, of course, Brian, is that batteries have a finite number of charging cycles. So people worry about degrading their battery if they're using it. But, there's also been arguments made that if we use like 20% of your battery for a grid surge and you get paid extra because the grid surge pricing payback is, they pay lots of money for that coverage of the grid surge so they don't have to put up a peaker plant, then it becomes, financially viable. Plus, battery chemistry is changing every day, improving every day, and Tesla is promising batteries that will have larger numbers of cycles. So I think by the end of this decade, we're going to see battery technology that you won't be worrying about the charge cycles, that it will be irrelevant to you, that the car will last 15, 20 years or whatever a normal car lasts, and you can power the grid and make money if they let you do it. They won't let you do it here. My solar panels will not power my house when the power goes out. It becomes an island, and so the power doesn't leak back into the grid, which is a safety concern.
Yeah, well, once we get to this future we were talking about, electric heated homes, electric cars, the grid is going to be a much, much different thing in the future.
And they are doing neighborhood experiments in Europe, where a lot of people are a lot of people have electric cars compared to the United States, but they will, they're doing these experiments, and apparently it's going very well. They're showing a very big financial benefit, and so it's like distributed solar, except it's not. It's just distributed electricity, where you don't have to build the power lines. They're you have little power plants all over the place, and when the grid needs it, it takes it. And but every grid is different, and every grid has different policies, and but we're looking forward to that, and we will continue to cover vehicle to grid charging and capabilities as further stuff comes along. So thanks a lot, Nate from Dartmouth. We appreciate it. Good luck with your studies there. I've also been asked randomly by a guy named Joe, how many amps should I run to my garage for charging? Is 40 amps good enough? Like I'm an expert, like I'm an electrician. I get these messages on Twitter sometimes demanding the information. Do you have any thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I'm not an expert either. I know, like, my car charger is 40 amps. So for one charger, 40 amps is good. If you're going to have two chargers, then probably you need 80 amps.
That's an interesting topic right there, because a lot of households, you see this on our local Facebook page, are moving towards 2 EV families, and we will be doing that too in the next year.
Yeah.
However, you're not charging from 0 to 100%. So I'm actually thinking about charging one of the cars at level 1, and because it comes in overnight, you're charging it at level 1, or maybe 2 level 3 charge, or 2 level 2 charges at 3.3 kilowatts, which does me fine. But then, duo chargers are still not that common, where they could, it'd be nice to have a dual charger in my driveway for 2 EVs, because when one is parked there and charging, they could suck all the juice that's available. And when they're both charging, they divide the juice. So I have a 40 amp line as well. And a lot of homes, you can't have that much electricity without doing some major electrical work. So 40 amps, I think, is enough, even for 2.
Yeah, well, like I said earlier, I think, my car is going to need a panel upgrade. But I'm going to plug a product here. I was able to Google it and find it here. There's probably others, but there's a company here in our province of Saskatchewan called Sun Country Highway, and they make electric car chargers. They were a pioneer in this. And they make a thing called the NeoCharge on-the-go smart splitter, and it's for basically level 2 charging for a car, but it sort of splits it into 2 chargers, so you don't need to upgrade your electrical panel. It manages to distribute the same, the one source of power to both cars.
We really have to get moving along here. We're going so long this week, it's going to be a record show. I'm sorry, kids. Hi, guys, writes Paul. Wayne Gretzky isn't from Brampton. He's from Brantford. Russell Peters is from Brampton.
Damn it.
You cannot make a mistake on a podcast without someone telling you that you're wrong. So we do want to be correct. Please correct us whenever we're wrong. And even correcting emails is good.
And, I'm actually meant to Google that before I said it, and I just forgot.
Well, Dawn has said that the International Energy Agency has raised its forecast for the global growth of wind and solar by another 25% compared to figures it published when? 6 months ago. The IEA has constantly been stupid about the growth, and it's hilarious. Every year they have to, without admitting they're wrong, admit that they're wrong by having completely different forecasts that they completely underestimated. So they upgraded it by 25%, not in a year, in 6 months. It's crazy. Brian, I'm going to quickly do the Eevee of the week.
The Chevy Bolt Eevee and Bolt EUV. Magic is electric.
Eevee of the week.
The 2022 Chevrolet Bolt is the second generation of the Chevy vehicle, Brian. It is $32,000, incredibly cheap. That is U.S. dollars. For the range, it has basically the same range as your Model 3 standard range plus, which is 416 kilometers. It's classified as a small station wagon. It is a bit tight on the space. Front-wheel drive, 200 horsepower, 5 passengers. Includes a lot of safety features. The seat comfort, which was in some ways the only criticism of the last Leaf, was that the seats were uncomfortable. They've improved those greatly. And they have got a teen driver configurable feature that lets you activate customizable vehicle settings with a key fob to encourage safe driving with your teen. I don't have to do that. I have a responsible teen. 8-year warranty on the electric parts. It not only looks more exciting inside and out, the redesigned hatchback also has enhanced features and a much cheaper, very compelling asking price. Your thoughts on the Bolt?
Yeah, I've never driven in one, but all the reviews have been pretty decent. And then the EUV, the newer Bolt, is, I guess, it's just a little bigger. Is that the difference?
A little. It is just a little bigger, but it's only $2,000 more, too. So I think it looks better.
The Clean Energy Show Lightning Round.
All right, it's the lightning round. Brian, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Electric motorcycles are charged to 85% in 15 minutes. The E-Moto company says it's close. That is cool, because you go pee, you get back on your bike, you stretch the buttock. You got to get the weight off the buttock there from straddling your motorcycle, relax the arms. 15 minutes, not bad.
That's great. That's amazing.
The people at the Reliability and Micro-Integration Division of Fraunhofer Institute announced recently an improvement in power inverter design that could lead to a 6% increase in range for electric vehicles. We talk about efficiency in electric vehicles. Same battery, and one vehicle goes a lot further than the next because it's efficient. Tesla's very good at that. Hyundai's very good at that. 6% is nothing to sneeze at just for the inverter. So this is a pretty significant thing if it turns out to be true. The secret is using silicon carbide semiconductors which operate more efficiently. That in turn results in less heat buildup, and that's where you lose heat with electricity or efficiency is heat. You lose it to heat. And relatively expensive, however, they're going to use as few as possible and sort of come up with a cool spot and a neat spot for keeping it cool and therefore efficient, Brian.
Yeah, well, efficiency is super important with electric vehicles, and it's just going to get more important. I guess inverters for solar for your house, the efficiency of that is super important. So it's great that people are making progress.
Tesla has, Elon has talked about FSD Beta 9 coming very soon, is teasing improvements, says it's huge, gigantic improvements. Do you believe him?
Well, yes, although, he just always underestimates how long it's going to take. That's all, but I do believe him.
Markham Hislop says that Montreal is planning to increase its tree cover to 25% by 2025 and plant 500,000 trees. This is a city doing its own climate thing, which is something I haven't heard of before, and it's an interesting way to end the show.
Well, the more trees, the better. And of course, our city that we live in is famous for being built on the completely bald prairie. So there's an often stated statistic about our city, Regina, Saskatchewan, Canada, that all 300,000 trees in our city have been planted by hand.
And we're probably more famous for our city rhyming with the word vagina. Regina, Saskatchewan, we get our fame any way we can.
And the home of Dick Assman as well.
This has been another exciting conversation about how the world is changing so quickly. Brian, it's always a lot of fun. Thank you to the listeners who have been listening to us, and especially to those who have been contacting us. We'll see you again next week with another edition of the Clean Energy Show.
See you next week.